Hey ladies, and welcome back to Ladies Lounge. I'm really excited to be starting a new topic today. Thank you so much for your support, your encouragement, your feedback, and your comments following the last few videos looking at marriage. Now, today's topic is a sensitive one, so please can we remember to be kind in our words and our comments and our feedback pertaining to this topic. So this question was posed to me regarding Bruce/Caitlyn Jenner and what my opinions and viewpoints were as a Christian. And so following that, I then come up with the question, are we called to a life of intolerance as Christians? So that's what I'll be looking to answer today. Now, for those of you who may not know, Bruce Jenner is a famous American athlete who won a lot of titles and medals in the 1960s. So he's very well known in the sporting world. But in recent months, he has come out to the world in saying that he's always felt that he was better suited as a woman, and had then started going through the process of changing his gender and his sex. So for those of you who may also not know, transgender is when a person is born with a particular set of either female or male organs, but feels that they are better suited as a different gender to that of which they are. So it'd be, for example, myself being born as a woman with women organs, deciding that I feel better suited to be a man. So I hope that's really helpful. So therefore, are we called to a life of intolerance? I don't think we are. And I'm going to outline about 8 or 9 reasons why I don't think we're called to a life of intolerance. Reason 1 is because God is a God of people. He has called us as Christians to love one another, to love people. And reason 2, which closely links to reason 1, is that Jesus died for people. He died for us as human beings, that our relationship with Father God could be reconciled and restored. So those 2 points, while they're very closely linked, are slightly different from each other. Reason 3, just because people have different views and opinions to ours doesn't mean that they need to be written off or kind of discarded or not tolerated just because their views and opinions are different to ours. And actually, you see that in the scriptures when, the Pharisees didn't understand why Jesus hung out with kind of people in society that were deemed to be different from them or not worthy of being with people, kind of leaders in the synagogue. But Jesus made it a point to hang out with people that were different to himself and different from what was expected of him. So which clearly kind of shows to us that just because people's lifestyles and opinions and views are different from ours doesn't mean that we need to write them off, which is always easier to do because it then, I guess, saves a lot of hassle and time. So reason 4 is that we live in a pain-stricken world. People are hurting, people are in pain, people are finding ways of filling the void that, God could be filling. And so that's something to be very mindful of, that we live in a world that is hurting and people are hurting, and therefore we need to be kind and sensitive to them, to each other really. I don't really like saying them and us, because we're all one. We just have different viewpoints and opinions. Reason 5, we actually do not know how transgendered people must feel. I can only imagine how difficult it must be to be uncomfortable with your sexual orientation or your sexuality, because that's something I've never experienced. That's not my experience. And so that's something to be very mindful of, that it must be so hard to just be uncomfortable with who you are as a person, as a being, and that actually we need to be kind and sensitive to people and those who may have different views and opinions to us. Reason 6, and I think this is really important and particularly ties in with the faith of Christianity, is that God is much more concerned with our heart. What condition is our heart in? What condition is our soul in? Because those two things are what causes us to get into a relationship with Jesus. Our heart and our soul. A surrendered heart and a soul that seeks to worship and submit and surrender to God. And because of that, we have to look beyond a person's physical looks. And I think that's probably why a lot of Christians have issues with people who have tattoos, who have many piercings, because they look different, because they're not what's expected of a Christian. But actually, once you get to know them, you realize that they're on fire for God. That actually for them, their physicality, the things that they've adorned their faces with or their body with is just an expression of who they are. But in the depths of their being, they love God and they want to worship Him. And I know it's hard to be able to just look past kind of tattoos and piercings, but we just need to remember that that's just one part of a person, and that we need to get to know them internally, because that's just the outward and that's the physical. And just as God is concerned with our heart and our soul, we should too be concerned with people's hearts and souls. And this actually goes into reason 7, because when the heart and the soul is wounded, it makes it very difficult to be open to spiritual development and growth, be open to God, be open to relationship with God and to a faith-based life. And so our words and our actions need to speak so much louder. Actually, our actions need to speak so much louder than words, but our words carry weight, and we can either help or damage someone's spiritual development and spiritual growth because of what we say and how we act towards them. Excuse me. And the last and final reason, which makes reason 8, is that actually loving and being kind and accepting of people doesn't necessarily mean agreeing with their lifestyle choice. It just means that we have grown and matured enough to know that it's more than their outward, and it's more so about their heart and who they are as a person. And we need to be loving and affirming in the love of God. We need to affirm people in the love of God, and that God actually came because He loves us and He wants fellowship and a relationship with us. And actually this final reason is quite important, and I'll illustrate it using a child and a parent. Now, I'm sure most of us have probably stolen something when we were younger. I'd like to think a cookie, a sweet, that last muffin, that last piece of chicken, you know, stuff around the house. And actually, when our parents find this out, they're not happy, because they're not happy with our choice. They're not happy with what we've decided to do. But because they love us, they're able to look beyond our lifestyle and what we decide to do. And it's just the same, that we should be able to love people irrespective of how different they may be from us, because ultimately it's all about love. This whole Christianity thing, yes, it's about serving and loving God, but more than that, it's about loving people, affirming people in God, affirming who God has created them to be. So I really hope these reasons why I do not think we've been called into a life of intolerance will get us thinking in a slightly different way, and would have opened our minds a little bit more. I really look forward to your comments, your feedback, and just some of your opinions. But just a reminder, let's be very kind and use very kind and sensitive words, because this is a very sensitive topic. And don't forget, I need questions. So don't forget to email in your questions to ladieslounge15, so 15, at gmail.com. Anything. It can be crazy, it can be wacky, it can be challenging and requiring me to do some research, but anything goes with this vlog. So I really look forward to hearing from you and to seeing you next time. Have a very good week.